Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, students. Welcome yet again to my YouTube channel. And today I've prepared you a very important presentation on a subject matter that is currently giving 2023 KCP candidate class and their parents sleepless nights. Well, what am I talking about? I'm talking about placement of students in Form 1. I know people are wondering what should gonna be the secondary school that the children are going to join. Well, I know we are waiting for this announcement with bated breath and a lot of anxiety. Well, that's the reason why I prepared this presentation to take you through the procedures or the process of placing students in secondary schools in Form 1, that is. But then, first things first, let me start by congratulating all the students who sat their KCPE and did very well. Congratulations on your hard work. You deserve a round of applause and you just did your best. Congratulations on your stellar performance. Well, what I want to look at, I want to take you through one, the procedure of placement of students in secondary schools. Then two, I would like to look at certain pertinent questions that sometimes parents ask with regards to placement of students in secondary schools. So allow me to start first with the procedures of placement of students in secondary schools. And at this particular moment, I want to mention a few things. Number one is the national performance. What is it that they consider? They consider the national performance. This will determine the cut-off marks for various secondary schools in various clusters, whether it's national schools, county schools, county schools, sub-county schools. The performance, the national performance determine the cut-off marks. Of course, the cut-off marks do change every particular year. Then, of course, once this is done, then we look at the second item, which is secondary school selections. Remember, during the registration of students for KCPE, the students selected 11 secondary schools, four of which were national schools, clustered into four, and of course the three of them were extra county schools, two county schools, and some other two were sub-county schools. And of course, if a child did very good selections according to how they were guided, then definitely a child who merits to go to national school definitely get to a national school, unless this child was not properly guided during the selection of school. So selection of school is going to play a very key role here. And I also believe that all the students were able to do their selection very well, and with regards to knowing a few things about the academic ability of the child, the cutoff for that particular school, the category of the school, etc., etc. And then the most important thing here that you also need to understand is affirmative action. Now, affirmative action is a positive step that is taken to promote diversity, to promote fairness, to ensure that there is equity, and to ensure that there's no discrimination in placement of students in secondary schools. Because some of these schools, if affirmative action is not applied, then most likely a school will be dominated by one particular region or particular students from a certain region. So affirmative action plays key role. And what is it? Where is it applicable? It's applicable in terms of regional performance. Remember, some of our institutions are located in hardship areas. So some of these institutions that are located in hardship areas, if you compare their performance, it may not be the same performance of students who are in urban centers. The urban center schools do tend to perform even much better than the schools in the hardship areas. Now, some of our schools are also found in highly volatile areas that are prone to insecurity. Students sometimes even find themselves at home and others are at school. So even teachers, availability of teachers is a problem. So you really don't expect that this child is going to fairly compete with a school that has been having teachers throughout. So the affirmative action is going to apply here to ensure that at least they are also not left behind. Affirmative action also applies when we look at the performance comparison between the boys and girls. How did the boys perform vis-a-vis the girls? Because maybe in one particular examination, the boys performed much better than girls, or girls perform much better than boys. So in terms of placing this, to ensure that at least each and every gender has got equal opportunity to national schools, county schools, and the sub-county schools. Then another important aspect where affirmative action applies is the comparison of performance between private schools and public schools. And of course, this is one area that each and every year everybody else is talking about. The talking point has been that maybe students in public schools are favored more than the students in private schools, or students in private schools are deprived of their rights to join national schools, to county schools, and all that. Far from it. Actually, affirmative action here applies because in most cases private schools do perform much better than their counterparts in public schools. So it therefore means that if you are supposed to be placed in national schools, then you realize that if affirmative action fails to apply, then our national schools and extra county schools perhaps would be dominated largely by the students from the private schools. That's why sometimes you find a student who scored maybe 380 marks in private schools fails to get a vacancy to a national school, or like Alliance, Kisumu Girls, schools like Mango, the Kenya High, Pangani schools, Alliance High School and all that. But even if we find that students who scored maybe around 370 marks find themselves in such kind of institution, why? Because of the affirmative action. Because sometimes students who, like I mentioned about hardship areas, that a child who has scored something to do with the 370% marks is highly likely to join a national school than even a student who is in an urban area, but then scored maybe at 300, slightly above whatever that student scored. So that's where affirmative action plays. So I want to completely completely clear the doubt that students in public schools are normally favored. And of course, if you look at the number of students sitting national examination from the public schools, those who have sat for the same examination from private schools, I think the publics are normally having overwhelming numbers. So when you look at that, if we don't apply affirmative action, then majority of these students are likely to be disadvantaged. Of course, sometimes even our private schools are advantaged because most of these institutions are highly equipped, the teachers are over there and all that. So the affirmative action is not meant to punish any child, regardless of whether they are in private schools or in public schools. There's nothing like that. If a child marries, a child marries. So that's exactly what affirmative action is meant to bring, that kind of equity and equity, fairness to all students, and then to ensure that everyone gets a praise. Remember students, if we go by the performance of students in highly volatile areas and you don't fail to apply affirmative action, we may not end up with any students from those areas joining national schools. And a national school must have a national face. So we must drive our pupils from all corners of the country. Well, now let me take you through a few pertinent questions that sometimes parents do ask. Number one, what happens if a candidate miss out on her favorite secondary school? I know our students have got favorite secondary schools that they wish to join. But what happens should they miss out on those schools? One, as a parent, ensure that you look for an alternative school. Remember, you need Shule Bora, Sio Bora Shule. Just go and look for an alternative school to take your child, and that will be okay. And here in this case here, it is important that even as you wait for the selection to be done, it's important to be flexible. Just talk to your child to ensure that the child is also flexible in mind, so that they get out of their mind the alliance thing, the Kenya High, the Mango. So in the event that they do not get selected to join those schools, then it simply becomes a make or break. It simply becomes a problem. And even eating, child cannot be able to eat. Let them be very flexible, because after all, not all students can go to Alliance. Alliance can only accommodate about 500 or 600 or something students. So let them be very flexible to join whichever school. And number two, question is it easy to get an alternative secondary school in should you realize that maybe the school that your child has been called to join is not appealing to you or something like that? And my answer is yes and no. Yes, because yes, you can go to an institution and because your child has performed well, performance of a child really matters here. That's why it is encouraged that a child should perform highly. So if you have got very good performance and you approach a school, most likely you're going to get admissions. Number two is the connections. If you have connections, this is Kenya. If you have connections, you can get to those institutions. And number three is a very crazy one, size of your pocket. I don't know the meaning of that, but the size of your pocket can secure your vacancy in any of these institutions in Kenya, whatever that one means. And of course, sometimes it is very not very easy to get a school in Kenya, and that's why I say no, because sometimes there are a lot of certain kind of factors that also play, because even the principals of these institutions, some of them also go through a lot of pressure during admission stages, because there's a politician somewhere who wants vacancies, there's a governor somewhere, there's a minister somewhere, there's a cabinet secretary somewhere, there's a member of parliament somewhere, there's an MCA somewhere. This school is in my area, my constituency, my county, and all that. The teachers who are in that school, they also have got friends outside there, or there's a friend of a friend who knows a friend who is in that particular institution. The workers who are there, the religious leaders, they're also there. They're also looking for vacancies for a friend of a friend, all kind of things. Not to mention, the BOMs, they're also there. They also have got friends who want vacancies, and all that. Very many things. And not to mention the briefcase guys, they're also there waiting for vacancies, and they can purchase it at will. So there are a lot of things that encompasses the process of admission of a student to a school that you are not called, because it is very possible to have it done. But all said and done, let me go to the third question. The third question is it possible for a child to be called to a school that they did not select? And the answer is yes. Why? If the selection was not properly done at the registration time, then most likely a child is likely to be placed in no particular order. And this can happen even in national schools, because maybe you managed to go to a national school, but then you don't consider much in terms of ability, and then you miss out on your option one. When you miss out of your option one of national school or extra county school, you may end up landing in option 2 or 3, or national school, even option 4. And at some point, you may miss out on all the 4 national schools, and you end up falling or being placed in another national school that you did not select, although it is a national school, because you managed to join a national school. So that normally happens because maybe you are not properly guided in terms of the priorities that you should give the selection that you did. Remember, you have got those clustering, etc. That also applies to extra county schools, because if a child misses out a national school, then most likely a child is likely to be placed on the to the extra county school, depending on the performance of the child. Then another reason why a child can be placed in a school that they did not select is, of course, affirmative action. When affirmative action applies, then it may also disadvantage. In fact, this is normally one key factor that normally plays much when you see students being called to schools that they did not select. Some of the schools you've never heard about, so that's what normally plays. And of course, the third one would be human error. Sometimes you can't miss them. The number 4 question is, should I take my child to a school he or she does not like? And my answer is no. Don't take your child to a school that the child is not very comfortable with. You should take your child to a school that even you as a parent or a guardian, you have confidence in. You can be able to, take your child to school. Do not take your child to a school crying, shedding tears, and you tell the child, it's not a school that studies. You're going to study what I know that. Ensure that you take your child to a school that both of you are comfortable with, and when all is said and done, after all, it's the child who is going to do the studies there. And if the child must go to that school, just take your time out and persuade this child, convince the child that, this is the only option that we have now. Let's go to school. And of course, when it comes to the only option thing, do not take your child to a school because it is the last option. I thought I should advise you about that. But that's one of the pieces of advice that I would want to give you. Do not take your child to a school because it is the last option. Take your child to a school knowing that, this is the best school for you. This is where you're going to learn throughout your secondary school. Even if you have maybe a session of transferring the child at some point to another institution, just don't mention it to the child. Take the child to school knowing that you are going to be our school. And then, of course, my second piece of advice is that it is important that you support your child, whichever school he or she goes. Just support the child and the institution. And discipline is very important. So ensure that at least do not be a lamb forever. Be a lion even just for a day, and it's going to make a great significance, because the moment these children join the high school, sometimes it can make them, it can break them, and they can adopt certain kind of crazy stuff. So ensure that the discipline of the child is much monitored. And of course, those students who wish to go to private schools, it's open. The private school admission is very easy. Just visit whichever private schools that private school that you would wish to join. Go there, look for information about admission in those institutions. Of course, you'll be able to be guided, and should you still to get those schools, the better. And as we wait for the pronouncement of the announcement of the schools that our children are going to be, let us just ensure that we remain positive, stay positive. If you are lucky to go to the schools that you are expected to go, well and good. And should you not be favored, some sort of institution, just don't lose hope. Don't give up. Whatever you have is the substance that is in you, the soft substance that is in you. That's what is going to propel you through. After all, school is a structure. Success is mindset. Just stay positive and go and do your best in whatever level you're going to do to be. So finally, let me take this opportunity to thank you for listening to me. Do not forget to share this video, to reach out to everyone else who would wish to know the procedures of selection of students to join secondary school. And please kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. And let's see it again as we proceed with the piece of advice to our students. May you be favored by God. Thank you for listening to me.